I've got blue smoke in my location. I'm checking it out.
What are you doing there? Get that bloody leap fixed.
They're armed. I need backup.
It's a cop.
Get out now. I will shoot.
Making a demo is always a challenge, we know that by now. Our goal is to show as much diversity as possible, diversity of our gameplay features and cultural aspects as well. For these purposes, and also to introduce and explain our mechanics, we are creating a completely new quest line. So let's jump back to November when our work began. Our narration team comes up with a story of a missing person.
Depends on the kind of job that you're offering.
My husband, Harry Evans, has disappeared.
It ties together our gameplay features as well as that Lovecraftian lore. At the same time, our concept artists and level modelers start working on the gameplay area. The quest is designed to take the player across different city districts: Rich, Poor, the Harbor Zone and the others. At first, the plan was to put together a small separate map just for GDC, but we quickly realized we didn't want to make something we would never use in the future. So we agreed that the quest should take place in the actual city. The problem is our full map is far from finished. It already has streets and buildings, but is lacking those small details that make a city feel alive. To negate that, we decide to border off the gameplay area and spice it up a little, add points of interest, vehicles, landmarks, and of course our monoliths. So now we have a more or less finished and polished part of the map that we can use in our final product. Things are going smoothly. Obviously, different bugs and glitches keep popping up like crazy. Sometimes the hero wears two hats, sometimes a floating object stop being floaty, and don't get me started on strange collisions. But we always manage to fix them in no time. However, there is one big problem that we have struggled to sort out for months: lighting. In our previous demo, we used static light maps and baked them into the textures. That was a difficult and resource-draining process, so in our game we eventually decided to switch to dynamic lighting. It works great, yet we still cannot pinpoint the right tone and colors that we want to use in the sinking city. To solve that problem, we reach out to professional photo artists in Kiev. They help our team find the right color scheme, inspired by the works of Caspar David Friedrich, James McNeill Whistler, Gregory Crutzen, and other prominent masters in their fields. Also, during our numerous playtests, we realized something. Our quest line is intriguing, but very linear. And that's not something you'd expect from the developers that keep hyping up their quote-unquote strong and non-linear storytelling. So our writers put together an alternative ending, I guess you could call it a good ending, available only for the most observant investigators. There is something else that requires a lot of effort to produce. Our intro cutscene is supposed to be the very first thing that people will see. Obviously, we want to make it look impressive and true to our source of inspiration, Lovecraft. Our cinematic artists decide to start the cutscene in the water, slowly emerging to show the city. The sea and its destructive influence are one of the main themes in our game, and these first few seconds felt fitting, they felt right.
The children of the North hear tales of the end of the world. A battle so great, the gods fall, and the 9 realms are consumed by frost and fire. But these tales are false. The gods did not perish. Now they say that mankind must rise and end Ragnarok. You may have survived vast and dangerous lands, crafted the most powerful weapons the realms have ever seen, conquered all manner of ferocious beasts, and proven yourself against the bravest of warriors. But do you think you're ready to take down a god? Ragnarok will never end.
From birth, the children of the North hear tales of the end of the world. A battle so great, the gods fall and the 9 worlds are consumed by frost and fire. But these tales are false. The gods did not perish. For 7 years, our worlds have been devoured by death and destruction. Now mankind must rise and do what the gods could not. Ragnarok must end.
Come and wake me every night. You say you missed the kind concept of you and I, you and I. You come and wake me every night. You say you miss the concept of you and I.
Against me. Oh, what have you done? Drop your weapons and surrender. I'll make this out of you.
walls of Fort Tarsus to explore the unknown and protect humanity. Let's join 2 players as they head out on an expedition.
Hey, Paul. You ready to go?
I'm just grabbing some supplies. Just about ready.
What are you going to use today?
I decided to go with the Colossus.
I'm going to use my Ranger. Try out some new upgrades.
You can equip your Javelin exosuit with gear that brings devastating power to combat.
Oh, there are a lot of scars down there. Oh, the scars have a heavy.
I have time to use that mortar. Give me some covering fire. There's a bunch more coming in.
Okay, I'll get this round.
Thanks.
Oh, come on. Be something good. Oh, yes! Jer's Wrath.
Oh, nice.
It's being run and commented by Live, Motor Nation's #1 sponsor and event organizer. So this is where your story begins. Your goal? To become the greatest champion of all motorsports. Perspectives the Crew 2 has to offer using only one button. From the top of buildings to the bustling city streets below or the busy waterways, the whole of the USA is ready for you to explore. Now you might have noticed I keep scoring points here. That's what we call dynamic freestyle. Every stunt and feat achieved anywhere in the open world will contribute to your overall progression in the game. Doing aerobatics tricks, car and bike stunts, or just speeding up on your boat, literally anything you can show off will get you closer to becoming a renowned champion of Motor Nation. Now it's time.
Just to give you a feeling of scale, that ship is about 20 meters long, and the other one, the mothership, is about 400 meters long. I'm going to go close to it so that you can see the size. So when we have large spaceships like that, the good thing, the interesting thing is that they are a real level of gameplay. You can go inside. We have interiors for those big ingredients. Something interesting about the scale and the feeling of scale. So I'm going to land on the top of the statue and you will realize how big it is. So here we have a wonderful vista.
You can see here, this is a completely different experience from what we showed in the first demo. In the first one, Deacon gets clotheslined, and it sounded very painful, by the way.
Oh, like, speaking of painful, okay, so the combat in this game is fairly brutal. John, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, we just wanted to make it as, as realistic as possible. So yeah, we're not holding back on that at all. And Sam's done most of his own stunt work for this. And I can tell you that when we're on the performance stage and we're capturing that stuff, we just try to keep it real, right?
Right. Well, right. There was sort of a decision made at some point. What I've been on the project for what, 2 or 3 years now?
Yeah, I think 3 years.
And so early on, I think there was a more, what were we? It was more Kurt Russell and sort of a two-fisted thing, and then it turned into, hey, let's take this quite seriously. And what that required is a lot more. Taking this combat stuff and showing the horror of the violence that happens.
As in real life, some parts of the body can become wetter than others. In Scum, we handle wetness per body part along with separate layers of clothes that can have different wetness values also. This means that parts of your gear can be dry or wet depending on what you do. Body parts that are covered separately are feet, legs, torso, hands, and head. If you're standing in the water up to your waistline, then only your legs and feet will be wet. The rest of your body will stay dry. Also, if you jump into the water, your gear will almost instantly become fully wet, even if you have a raincoat or some other water-resistant clothing that isn't fully sealed. It will not help you to stay dry. The success formula here is, if you want to keep your gear dry, stay away from the bodies of water, or at least drop everything to the ground. To jump into deep water with all your gear on, take a moment to see what happened to our dear Adolf last year. That particular summer day, he was showing off at the pier. He accidentally fell into the water along with his traveling backpack on his back. To make things even worse, the backpack was full of his mother's lingerie. The next thing you know, all that stuff simply pulled him directly to the bottom. The only way to survive in this kind of situation is to drop excessive weight until the buoyancy pulls you up. The amount of gear that your character can carry while swimming largely depends on your swimming skill and stamina. Sooner or later, you'll become tired and most likely, you'll sink. It's as simple as that. Now, let's talk about ways of drying your stuff off once it becomes wet. The easiest way to dry your clothes is by using the heat of your body in combination with the air temperature and wind. This is particularly useful during the summer.
This is crazy! This isn't you! You don't know me!
From a visual point of view, what's really cool about him is that he's actually got this really cool negative effect where he becomes negative.
And then that is connected to his powers. He's able to bring out someone's dark side. And then he can also, in our game, he can do these blasts of his negative energy.
You're going to see, swords or guns or even whips imbue with this negative power. And when it comes to Mr. Negative himself, those powers just amplified even more.
Everything you care about will be destroyed. The people will beg you for help, but you won't be able to save them.
Stop!
One of the first days when we were making the game, we were all sitting around talking about how we grew up with Spider-Man, and we all realized that when we were 9 years old, we all had Spider-Man underoos. Like Spider-Man was our guy, and we never lost that love for him. Now it's fans making the game for other Spider-Man fans, and we believe in that power and responsibility. Our game is really going to put you in the shoes of Peter. We want to deliver on the fantasy of Spider-Man, and to do that, we have to take advantage of all his rich backstory, his supporting cast, his friends, his foes.
We're going to see characters we know and love in different ways. So this is like a whole new world for Spider-Man, and it's really cool.
Chased us over the mountains. We'll need an extra gun.
This place ain't no such thing as civilized.
You're the only one of these fools that I trust.
Where's our money?
Here we go, the main flying pass. So, very Blade Runner-esque we got going. So there's a sense of wildlife. Some could be hostile, some could be passive. But we essentially want to make these planets living places that feel visceral, that have their own identity. When you go to ArcCorp or you go to Hurston, they feel totally different. They match with the sort of story and the history and the lore. And they feel tactile. They feel like a place that you could visit, a place that you could go and tell stories of, and take pictures of, or share with your friends. So someone's conveniently left us a Knox. So you can use that to get a bit closer into the city.
Systems activating. Systems on.
you sort of can see the city stuff that seemed quite small as we flew over it. We're down on the ground and it's pretty huge. Oh, all right, let's see if... Oh! Glenn, you're just showing off now.